Hello, welcome to this video on pre-health, what you need to know. My name is Scherger. I'm the Director of Health Career Advising out of the Office of Undergraduate Studies here at Case Western Reserve University. For this video, we are going to look at what you need to know as its title as a pre-health student. For most students, that means pre-med, but this video will also address issues for students who are thinking about pre-dentistry, pre-physician assistant, pre-veterinary medicine, and many other areas. The three goals that we have for this session is to review the academic requirements for the pre-health sciences, take a deep look at what are the actual courses that you will need to complete as a student that is planning to pursue professional health science study after your time here as an undergraduate student at Case Western Reserve University. Secondly, we're going to discuss academic considerations that will impact your schedule for your first semester here. And finally, we will look at exactly how do you go about developing the schedule for fall 2015. I'd like to remind you that if you have questions after watching this video, that you can send them to the email summerreghelp@case.edu, and we will be showing that email again at the end of the video. So starting off, like I said, first we want to talk about what are the requirements for the health sciences. What are those core courses that you will need to complete as a student that is planning to go to medical school or dental school or one of the other areas? And these are requirements you will need to complete regardless of what major you end up pursuing. So first of all, we have that you will be required to do 2 semesters of inorganic chemistry, or general chemistry as it's often called, and you need to do that with a lab. You will need to complete 2 semesters of organic chemistry as well with a lab component there. You will need to do either 2 or 3 semesters of biology with the lab. Now, most of these schools only require 2 semesters of biology and 2 semesters of lab to go along with that. However, the way we teach it here at Case Western Reserve University is we go a little bit more depth than most other institutions. And so most of you will need to complete the full 3-semester sequence that's offered by the biology department. Even though the schools may not require the 3rd semester, in terms of content that you will need to do well on tests like the MCAT or the DAT, you're going to need all 3 courses. You also need 2 semesters of physics with lab. You will need to complete, most of you at least will need to complete 1 semester of introductory biochemistry. You will need to do 2 semesters of English composition, which is covered by our SAGES writing seminars. You will need to complete 1 to 2 semesters of calculus, depending upon what major you select, but also which of the health science areas you're looking to go into. Most of you will need 1 semester of statistics. And then finally, you will need 1 to 2 semesters of behavioral science. This typically plays out as either being psychology and or sociology. For the most part, only the pre-meds will need an introductory course in sociology. Many of the other health science areas, you will need that introductory course in psychology. A few of the areas may require that you do a couple of additional courses in psychology as well, such as developmental psychology or something along those lines. Now, you have all of those requirements. Now, of course, the good news is you don't have to complete all of them in your first year. These are courses that you're going to be taking throughout your first 3 years here at Case Western Reserve. Now, most of these requirements are known, the ones that I just listed, but it is important also to note that there are variation by the health science professions and by individual programs. So taking the requirements that we just reviewed, for example, if you're thinking about going to become a physician assistant, you don't have to do physics. Now, you may choose a major such as biology that requires that anyway, but for the requirements for those programs, let's say instead you decided to major in medical anthropology, you wouldn't actually have to do physics if you were thinking about going into the field of being a physician assistant. Similarly, as a physical therapist, if you're thinking about that as a profession, you would not need organic chemistry. So unless again your major requires it, you would not need to worry about completing that as a requirement. Now, in both those cases, both for physician assistant and physical therapist, it's not that you have less courses to complete though. There are additional requirements that you do in your 3rd and 4th year in upper level biology work that other pre-health science do not have to do. Since that is 3rd and 4th year work though, we're not going to worry about that today in this video since we are more interested in your first year. Just another example, though, of some of the unique requirements that are out there. If you're thinking pharmacy, many pharmacy programs require an introductory course in economics, so that's unique to that profession. What's important is that as you are a student here at Case Western Reserve, that you're working with your advisors, especially the Office of Undergraduate Studies, myself as Director of Health Career Advising, to identify what are these unique requirements for your individual program or your individual major, and how do you go, or not major, I'm sorry, but your individual professional program, and how do you go about identifying what those requirements are and completing them. Secondly, the other thing you want to consider are what I already mentioned previously, are your admission exams. So if you're thinking about going to medical school, you will need to take the MCAT. If you're thinking dental school, it's the DAT. Pharmacy has the PCAT. Optometry is the OAT. And then for most other areas such as veterinary medicine, physical therapy, physician assistants, you would take the GRE. And most students take these courses at the end of their third year, especially if you're following the traditional path of completing your undergraduate degree in 4 years and then going on to your professional program immediately afterwards. That being said, if you want to take a gap year, if you're going to take more than 4 years to graduate, say you're an engineering student, you plan to do some co-oping, which may push you into a 5th year, it's perfectly okay to take those tests later on after the 3rd year. Likewise, if you're bringing in a lot of AP credit or post-secondary work and you get ahead in your studies, there's nothing that says that you can't take these tests at the end of your 2nd year or sometime during your 3rd year. That's okay as well. But for most students, you do end up taking it at the end of the 3rd year. So as we're planning to your coursework and you're trying to figure out what exactly it is you should be taking, we want to keep in mind what are these specific requirements. And also, if you want to take your, say, the MCAT by the end of the 3rd year, how does your schedule need to look so that you're getting all these preparation courses in by the time you're ready to take the exam? There are other schedule considerations as well. Obviously, your major area of interest. That will have a significant impact on what courses you take, especially in your 1st year as a pre-health science student. You'll also want to consider, are you thinking about double majoring? Are you thinking about picking up some minors? And how do you fit those courses in that you would need for those programs? Now, that's not to say you need to do a double major, that you need to pick up a minor. And many students often think that if I pursue a 2nd major, maybe even do a dual degree program where I have 2 bachelor's degrees, that would look more impressive to these professional schools and it might give me an advantage. That's a false assumption, though. The medical schools and the other health profession schools, their admission people tell us directly it has really no impact on whether a student has additional majors or degrees or minors. They are always interested more about the quality of your experiences rather than the quantity of titles and certifications that you receive. That being said, certainly if your interests lead you in different directions and you want to explore those interests fully, there's nothing wrong with doing a program such as doing a program where you are double majoring or you are picking up a minor. It's very popular, for example, for students who major in biology, maybe to pick up a minor in medical anthropology or psychology. But it also could be something that doesn't even relate to medicine in any specific way. We've had students who have majored or minored in areas like art history or economics or accounting, and they've done just as well getting into those programs as getting into the professional schools down the road as well. Another consideration that many of you will be looking at, especially if you are planning to major in the natural sciences, is should you pursue a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science degree. Here again, in terms of the admission committees at the professional schools, it makes no difference. They are not giving preference to one type of degree over another. Most pre-health students who have this option go the Bachelor of Arts route simply because it allows more flexibility. And if you do want to pick up, say, a minor or a 2nd major, it's easier to do so. That being said, if you are interested in going more in depth and you would like to learn more, say, about biochemistry or chemistry or one of these subject areas, and you would like more of a quantitative and a research background in them as well, the Bachelor of Science may be the better fit for you. My advice to you is when you are ready to declare your major, whether that's in your 1st semester or later on in your 1st year, maybe even early in your 2nd year, when you talk with the faculty and the advisors in those majors, talk to them about what are your interests and what do you hope to accomplish out of your undergraduate days and your career here as an undergraduate student, and they can advise you best whether the BA or the BS route best helps you achieve those goals. Finally, of course, you do have general education requirements that you have to consider as well. And so there are specific requirements you need to complete for your degree. So you have your SAGES seminars and courses. You have certain requirements that you have to complete. So again, depends on your major, but you have so many courses you have to complete in the humanities, the social sciences, and so on. We don't worry too much about the math and the science general education requirements, because simply as a pre-health student, you're going to cover those by meeting all the requirements that we showed you a few minutes ago. As you're completing these requirements, there are options to explore areas of health through them. So many students might want to take a course in medical anthropology, or maybe you want to take introductory bioethics, or a course, say, from the economics or the poli-sci department in health that covers health policy. These are all great options, but again, don't feel like you have to limit yourself to those areas. There's nothing wrong with being the student who wants to explore language or study accounting or other areas because that's where your interests lie. The medical schools, the other health professional schools are looking for diversity in many different ways. And one way they look at diversity is, what is your academic background? What interests do you bring? What unique perspectives might those undergraduate majors allow you to bring to their class when they're trying to create the cohort at the graduate level? The next thing we want to think about, especially as we think more about that your first semester and creating that schedule, or what other considerations are you going to be looking at? Certainly AP and IB credit is something that you consider, and there's two questions you want to think about if you do have credit awarded to you for these tests. First of all, you want to ask yourself, are you ready to move on to the next level? And I know some of the other videos that you can watch that are offered by those specific departments in chemistry and biology and so on address this. But it really is a question that, say you have a 5 on your AP chemistry exam, and so the university awards you credit for Chem 105 and Chem 113, which is the first semester of inorganic chemistry in the lab that corresponds with it. Are you really ready to move on to Chem 106, or might it benefit you to review and maybe waive that AP credit and take the course again? That's going to be that's going to be a different answer for each individual. And so what I encourage you to do is think about your own background, where you think your strengths lie. Again, watch the videos by the other departments. And then when you come in the fall, if you're still not certain, schedule the higher level course, get a sampling of that in the first week, see if it is where you're at, or maybe they're covering a lot of material that you're uneasy with, and so you feel you do need to make that schedule change. That's possible to do in the first couple weeks. Also, you'll have the opportunity then to talk to the faculty actually who are teaching the courses to see where the best place for you to start is. The other consideration, though, with AP and IB credit as a pre-health student is, what's the professional school's perspective? Are they open to accepting that credit or not for meeting their requirements? In general, any AP credit you would receive in the arts, the humanities, the social sciences, anything outside of those STEM fields, perfectly okay to accept the credit, meet requirements, maybe move on to more advanced levels as well, if that's where your interests take you. When it comes to math and physics, most of these professional programs are fine with you using AP credit for that, as long as you do at least one course at the college level in math or physics. So certainly with physics, that's not a concern, because if we do award you credit, it'll only be for the first semester of physics you need to complete, and so you'll be doing the second semester with us anyway. Now, if on the calculus side, if you do have, say, a score of a 5 in the Calc BC, and we give you credit for 2 semesters of calculus, I would encourage you to think about possibly repeating it, maybe moving on, especially if your major requires it, to even higher level math, or at the very least taking a course in statistics, because again, the professional schools would want to see you take at least one course at the college level. With biology and chemistry, the professional schools are a little less reluctant to accept AP credit for meeting the requirements. Now, the good news for you on the biology side is it's not much of an issue, because although if you do score a 4 or 5 on the AP bio exam, you will receive credit for it. It's not the credit you need as a pre-health student. You will actually be starting at a more advanced level, and so you'll get credit, counts towards your degree. That works out great, but you still start the general sequence and need to do all 3 courses. On the chemistry side, if you do decide to accept your AP credit and move on, for the most part that works out with the professional schools. What the ones who are not, and it's a few number, but the ones who do not accept AP credit for meeting the requirements, if you go on and take more advanced level chemistry or biochemistry after organic chemistry, they will accept that as a substitute for the AP credit that you accepted. So that's kind of a lot of specifics. The general rule of thumb is if you feel you are ready to move on, I would encourage you to do so. Just be aware you may have to pick up an additional course down the road to make up for it. The next consideration as we think about your fall semester schedule is how many credit hours do you want to register for. General rule of thumb is you want to look for about 14 to 17 credit hours each semester. That will have you on track to graduate in 4 years, even if you don't bring in any AP or IB or post-secondary credits. Also, that's a good amount of coursework to keep you busy but not be overwhelmed. And you will have about 4 or 5 courses each semester if you're looking at that. Finally, the other thing you want to look at is what are the other courses that interest you. I kind of talked about that already. If there's courses outside of your major, if there's courses outside of what's required for these professional schools, I encourage you to explore them. Take the time as an undergraduate student. You're not going to have that opportunity in the future. Once you get into medical school, dental school, you're on a very narrow track, and it's difficult to explore those other interests outside of those professions. And so these next 4 years are a unique opportunity, so take advantage of it. Finally, for this session, what I want to do is review what a sample schedule would look like for students, depending on what areas they might be looking to major in. Now, there's a lot of information on these next couple slides that we're going to be reviewing, so don't worry if you don't get it all. Of course, you can always pause the video, but you can also refer to the first year registration guide that will be available, and there'll be some footnotes and some additional explanations besides just the slides here that we're going to review. So the first slide we have up here is for students who are thinking of majoring in the biological or chemical sciences. Now these sample schedules review the first 3 years, so this is most likely what you would need to follow. Again, if your plan is to graduate in 4 years, go on to your professional school immediately afterwards and be ready to take the admissions test like the MCAT or the DAT that you need to complete for that program at the end of your 3rd year. So if we look at, again, students who are looking at majoring in the biological chemical sciences, especially narrow in on that first semester of courses, what's being recommended is that you take your math course, your chemistry course, and your biology course. Math 125 could be 121, Chem 105, and Biology 214 with the lab. Also keep in mind you will also be taking your SAGES course, your first SAGES course, your first writing seminar, so your full schedule is pretty much set. Now, if you do have AP credits, say for the math or the chemistry, there again, if you feel you're ready to move on, you could look at the second semester and slide one of those courses over. So you could slide Chem 106 in there, you could slide Math 126 or 122 in there as well. Another option you could consider is, do you want to take care of your chemistry lab, Chem 113, either in the first or the second semester? You do have the flexibility to decide between those two, and it's really your choice if you want to fit it in that first semester or you want to wait. Again, keep in mind you want to be scheduling about 14 to 17 credit hours for each semester. Going to the next slide, for students who are thinking of majoring in the mathematical or physical sciences, you don't see too much of a difference here. The most significant one is that we're flipping the order of the physics and the biology. So we're recommending that students who are thinking about these majors start physics in their first semester. So most likely that will be physics 121. Depending on the major, maybe 115, but for most students in this area, you're required to do the 121, 122 level of physics. And then what you'll notice, we simply bump the biology. You'll start that in your second year. For students who are thinking about engineering majors, this is where you see probably the most difference, especially in that first semester, because there are some different courses that meet these requirements that you need to complete as a pre-health student. So once again, we do have math, your calculus in that first semester. We also have physics 121 there. Again, engineering students don't have the choice between 121 or the 115 level. You need to complete the 121, 122 sequence. You'll see there, instead of the Chem 105, though, we have Chem 111. That is the introductory chemistry course for engineering students. And the professional health schools will accept this as well as for meeting your requirement of 2 semesters of inorganic chemistry. What you'll notice if you look to the second semester, or say you have the AP credit where you're ready to move on beyond Chem 111, what you'll do is take Engineering 145, which is a course in material science. Here again, the professional health schools accept that as inorganic chemistry, so your sequence is covered by those 2 courses. Keep in mind, though, if you don't have AP credit, you do also need to fit in that Chem 113 lab in your first year. It's not required as an engineering student, so sometimes engineering students forget about that, but as a pre-health student, you do need to fit Chem 113 in, either in your first or second semester. Also, you'll note, as you start to look, if you're an engineering major, as you start to look at the recommended schedules that are suggested by the individual majors, you'll see that some recommend that you start physics in the first semester. Others recommend that you wait till the second semester to start your physics. Those majors usually recommend that you do your computer programming in the first semester. Go ahead and follow what that individual major is recommending. There's nothing wrong with waiting to start your physics in your second semester. You're not going to be behind by any means. The final slide here we have for students who are thinking about majoring in the arts, humanities, or social sciences. Again, looks very familiar to that first slide we looked at for the chemistry and biology majors. Again, starting off with your chemistry 105, we do recommend you do 113 here as well. Also then start the bio sequence with the lecture and the lab. What's different here is we don't have the calculus in the first semester. If you want to take calculus in your first semester, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, and you can do so. However, what we wanted to do is acknowledge that you may have a course you want to take, an introductory course that you want to take in the major you're pursuing. So let's say you want to major in psychology, or you wanted to do history or something like that. You may want to take a course in that subject. So to allow you to take a course in that subject area, as well as your SAGES writing seminar, but also get going on your pre-health requirements. That's why we recommend that you do move math to the second semester, and then just pick up the general chemistry lab. That way you can take all of these courses and still be within that 14 to 17 credit hour area. Like I said, it's a lot of information on these slides. Really just focus in on that first year. The rest of the schedules of the second or third year are there for you to consider what you will have to be doing and how it all works out. But there'll be plenty of time to have conversations in the future and going forward and advising appointments in which we can figure out does your schedule work that you can just follow it exactly as it's laid out, or are there, because of AP credit or post-secondary, or maybe you want to do study abroad in your second semester, or I'm sorry, your second year, and you need to rearrange your schedule somewhat on how you actually meet all those requirements. We will work with you one-on-one to answer those questions. As a final note then, as we wrap up here, again, pre-health advising is done in the Office of Undergraduate Studies located in Sears 357 by the Director of Health Career Advising. That's me. And I do strongly recommend that each of you take the time to schedule an appointment with me during your first semester. Just come in, introduce yourself, let me know where your interests are, what specific questions you have. I look forward to meeting you one-on-one that way. Also, though, before that we will be doing an orientation welcome specifically for pre-health students. And this will be in your schedule when you arrive on campus in August. But just to let you know, it'll be Wednesday on August 19th. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, there'll be a session specifically for the students who are thinking of going into medicine. And then for all of the other students who are thinking of going into other areas of the health sciences, again, such as dentistry, physical therapy, veterinary medicine, and so on, we'll be doing a session at 4 o'clock. Prior to then, again, if you do have questions, you can, especially when you're working on your first semester schedule, you can email summer reghelp@case.edu to have those answered, and also consult the first year registration guide as there is additional information in there and general advice we give to pre-health students. Thank you for watching this video, and we look forward to meeting you when you arrive on campus in August.